Don't leave me here alone, please. This can't be happening. Not now. The humid October air hit the streets of Miami hard. Olivia Smith walked with trembling steps, her honey-colored eyes clouded by tears she refused to shed. The crumpled paper in her right hand was the sentence, "Eviction for non-payment. Deadline, 48 hours. This can't be. This can't be," she whispered, stopping in front of the apartment building where she had lived for the last 3 years. Her legs gave way. Chapter 20. Olivia had lost everything in a week. Her job at the coffee shop, her boyfriend who had left her for someone with more of a future, and now her home. The heat of the concrete felt through her skirt as she sank onto the entrance steps. "Olivia!" A familiar voice startled her. It was Mrs. Peterson, her neighbor from the second floor. "Honey, what's wrong?" "I lost my job, Mrs. Peterson," she managed to articulate. "And now, this." The older woman came closer and read the paper. Her face darkened. "Oh, child, come here." Mrs. Peterson's hug unleashed everything Olivia had held back. Tears streamed down her tanned cheeks as her body shook with sobs that came from the depths of her soul. "I don't know what I'm going to do," she murmured against the woman's shoulder. "My mom died 2 years ago. I have no family. I have nothing. Listen to me carefully." Mrs. Peterson separated her gently, holding her face between her wrinkled hands. "Tomorrow I'm going to the local outdoor market. My friend Joe needs help at his flower stand. It's not much, but it's something." Olivia nodded, although inside she felt like she was falling apart. Flowers. She had studied business administration at night for 2 years, dreaming of having her own company one day. Now she would be selling bougainvilleas at the market. That night, in her empty apartment, the power had already been cut. Olivia curled up on the mattress on the floor. The full moon filtered through the curtainless window, creating shadows that danced on the bare walls. Every story is about a woman who believes she doesn't deserve to be seen until someone truly sees her, she thought, remembering a line she had read in an old book. The next day, at the market, the chaos of voices, smells, and colors overwhelmed her. Mr. Joe's stand was located in a corner between vendors of crafts and tropical fruits. "You must be Olivia," said a chubby man with a graying mustache. "Mrs. Peterson told me about you. The job is simple. Arrange the flowers, help with customers, keep everything clean. I'll pay you $100 a day, $100. It would barely be enough to eat." "Okay," she replied, forcing a smile. The first few hours were a disaster. She pricked herself with the thorns of the roses, spilled water on an orchid arrangement, and mixed up the prices 3 times. But when she saw a young couple choosing flowers for their wedding, something changed inside her. "When is the big day?" Olivia asked as she assembled a bouquet. "In 2 weeks, the bride replied, radiant. "It's going to be on a small beach in Key West." Olivia worked with special care on that arrangement. Each flower seemed to come to life in her fingers as if it understood the importance of the moment it would adorn. "It's beautiful," murmured the bride when Olivia finished. "You have a gift." Those words stuck in her heart. A gift. It had been so long since someone had seen something good in her. During lunch, she sat on a bench behind the stand, eating a burger and fries that Mr. Joe had shared with her. The music from a nearby street performer echoed in the distance, mixing with the bustle of the market. "Why so thoughtful, kid?" Mr. Joe asked. "It's just, I had other plans before," Olivia confessed. "I wanted to have my own business, be independent. Now I don't even know where I'm going to sleep tonight." "Life takes many turns," the man replied with wisdom. "Sometimes it takes us down paths we don't expect, but always for a reason." That afternoon, while arranging the flowers, Olivia noticed a man watching her from a distance. He was tall, with an athletic build, wearing a blue linen suit that screamed money. The most striking thing about him were his eyes, blue as the Caribbean Sea, but cold, distant. For several minutes the man remained there, motionless, studying her. Olivia felt uncomfortable under his penetrating gaze. What could he want? Why was he looking at her like that? When he finally turned and walked away, Olivia felt a strange emptiness, as if something important had been about to happen, but had slipped through her fingers. "Who was that man?" she asked Mr. Joe. "What man?" "The one in the blue suit. He stood there for like 10 minutes, just watching." Mr. Joe frowned and looked where Olivia was pointing, but there was no one there anymore. "I didn't see anyone, kid. Maybe you imagined it." But Olivia knew it hadn't been her imagination. Those blue eyes were engraved in her memory with disturbing clarity. When they closed the stand, Mr. Joe handed her her first $100. "Where are you going to sleep tonight?" he asked with concern. "Don't worry, Mr. Joe, I'll find something." But it was a lie. She had no idea. She walked through the streets of the hotel zone as night fell. The lights of the resorts turned on one by one, creating a painful contrast with the darkness spreading inside her. She stopped in front of St. John's Church. The palm trees swayed majestically against the violet evening sky. She had heard that some people slept on the nearby beach, protected by the sea breeze. "My God," she murmured, looking up. "If you exist, if you're really up there, I need a sign. I need to know this isn't the end." At that moment she felt a presence beside her. She turned and found herself again with those blue eyes that had watched her at the market. "Excuse me," the man said, with a deep voice that sent a shiver down her spine. "Are you the flower girl from the market?" Olivia nodded, unable to find her voice. "I saw you working today. You have talent." "Thank you," she managed to whisper. "My name is Alexander Vanderbilt." He extended his hand, and when Olivia took it, she felt an electric shock run through her from head to toe. His skin was smooth, cared for, very different from the working hands she knew. "Olivia Smith. Olivia," he repeated, as if tasting the sound of her name. A beautiful name. They stood in silence for a moment, studying each other. Olivia noticed that up close, Alexander had small wrinkles around his eyes, marks of someone who had lived more than he showed. She guessed he was about 30 years old. "What's a girl like you doing in a place like this?" he asked, gesturing discreetly to the homeless people who were beginning to settle in for the night. Olivia felt the heat rise to her cheeks. I'm not, but the words got stuck in her throat. The truth was too humiliating. Alexander seemed to understand without needing an explanation. "Do you have a place to stay tonight?" The question hung in the air like a bomb about to explode. Olivia knew she should lie, preserve what little dignity she had left. But something in Alexander's eyes, an understanding she hadn't seen in a long time, completely disarmed her. "No," she whispered, and the word came out like a choked sob. Alexander closed his eyes for a moment, as if making an important decision. "I know a place," he finally said. "A small, clean, safe hotel. I can pay for a room for you for tonight." "No," Olivia replied immediately. "I can't accept that. I don't even know you." "Then let me get to know you." And there was that look again, intense, penetrating, as if he could see through all the barriers Olivia had built around her heart. She thought this was the worst night of her life, but she still can't imagine what's coming. Like if you want to know what happens with Olivia and Alexander, comment which city you're reading from, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Shh! Listen, did you hear that? There's something here I don't understand. The room at the Caribbean Hotel was small but cozy. Turquoise walls, a single bed with a sea-themed quilt, a light wood desk, and a window overlooking the inner courtyard filled with dwarf palm trees. Olivia stood in the doorway, not daring to enter completely. "It's just for tonight," Alexander murmured, handing her the key. "Tomorrow you can look for something more permanent." "Why are you doing this?" she asked, studying his face. "You don't know me at all." Alexander was silent for a moment, his gaze lost somewhere beyond the window. "Let's just say I know what it feels like to be lost. There was something in his voice, a deep sadness that contrasted with his successful appearance. Olivia felt the urge to ask more, but he was already heading for the door. "Get some rest," he said without turning around. "Tomorrow will be a better day." When Alexander left, Olivia fell onto the bed and for the first time in days allowed her muscles to relax. The mattress was firm, the sheets smelled of a sea breeze, and for a few minutes she could pretend that her life hadn't completely fallen apart. But sleep didn't come easily. Her mind wouldn't stop thinking about Alexander's strange appearance. Who was he really? What was an obviously wealthy man doing walking through downtown Miami on a Wednesday night? The next morning, she arrived, early at Mr. Joe's stand. The market was busier than the day before. It was Thursday, and many tourists were buying flowers to take to their hotels before the weekend. "You look better, kid," Mr. Joe commented. "Did you find a place to stay?" "Yes, but only for last night," Olivia replied as she arranged the roses. "Today, I have to find something else. My friend Mrs. Gable rents rooms in her house," he said. "It's not fancy, but it's clean and safe. I can give you her address." Olivia felt a huge sense of relief. At least she would have a place to go. During the morning, she served several customers. An elderly lady buying carnations for an altar, a young man looking for flowers to propose to his girlfriend on the beach, a mother wanting to decorate her daughter's birthday party. Every story moved her. She was beginning to understand that flowers were not just petals and fragrances. They were symbols of love, hope, memory, celebration. Her job had more meaning than she had imagined. Around noon, while preparing a sunflower arrangement, she felt that familiar sensation of being watched. She looked up, and there was Alexander, again motionless, studying her from a distance. This time, Olivia decided to take the initiative. She left the flowers and walked towards him. "Are you going to keep staring at me from afar, or are you going to tell me what you want?" Alexander smiled, and that smile completely transformed his face. The hard lines softened, his blue eyes lit up, and for a moment, Olivia glimpsed the man hiding behind the cold facade. "You're direct," he said. "I like that." "I don't have time for games," Olivia replied. "My life is too complicated to be guessing intentions." "You're right." Alexander came closer. "Can I buy you lunch?" Olivia looked towards the stand where Mr. Joe was watching her with curiosity. "I can't leave work." "Just half an hour. There's a little diner nearby that serves the best fresh fish tacos in Miami." The mention of fish tacos made Olivia's stomach roar audibly. She had only had coffee and a pastry for breakfast. "All right," she agreed. "But be quick." The Sea Corner Diner was located in a narrow alley with plastic tables and brightly colored tablecloths. The aroma of citrus and fresh fish floated in the air like an irresistible invitation. "2 orders of fish tacos," Alexander told the waiter. "Do you come here often?" Olivia asked, surprised that he knew the place. "My grandfather used to bring me when I was a kid," he replied, with a nostalgic expression. "He said the best food is found in the simplest places." "Does your grandfather live here in Miami?" Alexander's expression darkened. "He passed away 5 years ago." "I'm sorry. He was the only person who really understood me," Alexander continued, playing with his napkin. "When he died, I was left very alone." Olivia felt an immediate connection. She also knew what loneliness was. But there was something in the way Alexander described it that suggested a different kind of isolation. "You don't have family?" "I have a father," he said bitterly, "but it's not the same." The food arrived and they ate in a comfortable silence. Olivia savored every bite of the fish tacos as if it were the last meal of her life. It had been days since she had eaten something so delicious. "Can I ask you something?" Alexander said suddenly. "Go ahead." "What happened? Yesterday you seemed lost." Olivia put her fork down on the plate. It was a question she had been expecting, but it still hurt to answer. "I lost my job a week ago," she began. "I worked at a coffee shop near the hotel zone. The owner closed down because he couldn't pay the rent. 3 days later, my ex-boyfriend, left me. He said he needed someone with more financial stability. And 2 days ago, I got the eviction notice." "Your parents?" "My mom died 2 years ago. Cancer. My dad left us when I was 12. Alexander was silent, processing the information. "So you're completely alone?" "Yes," the word came out like a sigh. "Completely alone." "No," Alexander said, with an intensity that surprised her. "You're not alone anymore." Their eyes met across the table, and Olivia felt something move in her chest. It was dangerous, that instant connection with a stranger, but it was also the most real thing she had felt in a long time. "Why do you care?" she asked in a low voice. "Why are you helping me?" Alexander took a long time to answer, as if he were struggling with something internally. "Because I see something in you," he finally said, "a strength that you don't even recognize yourself, and because it's been a long time since I've met someone real." "Real?" "The people around me always want something from me. Money, connections, favors. But you, when you looked at me yesterday at the church, you saw me. Not what I can give you." Olivia realized that Alexander had revealed more than he intended. There was money in his life, that was obvious. But there was also pain. "What do you do for a living?" she asked. Alexander's expression changed immediately, becoming cautious. "Family business," he replied vaguely. "Nothing very interesting." It was a lie, or at least a half-truth. Olivia knew it by the way he avoided her gaze. They returned to the market, and Alexander said goodbye with a promise to return the next day. Olivia spent the rest of the afternoon distracted, thinking about the conversation they had. That afternoon, after work, she went to see the room that Mr. Joe's friend was renting. It was small but clean. A bed, a wardrobe, a desk, and a shared bathroom. The price was $600 a month, almost everything she would earn working with the flowers. "You can pay me weekly if that works for you," said Mrs. Gable, a plump woman with kind eyes. "I know things are tough right now." Olivia accepted, and that night she settled into her new temporary home. It was better than sleeping on the street, but the reality of her situation was still overwhelming. She went to bed early, but again sleep eluded her. She couldn't stop thinking about Alexander, about his sad eyes, about the contradictions she had noticed in him. Around midnight, she heard voices in the courtyard. She peeked out the window and saw Mrs. Gable talking to a man she couldn't make out well in the dark. "She's been here since today," Mrs. Gable was saying. "She's a good girl. She won't cause any trouble." "I need you to keep me informed," the man replied. "It's important." Something about that conversation made her skin crawl. Why would it be important for someone to know about her? And who was that man? The next day, Alexander showed up earlier than usual. He seemed nervous, restless. "Is everything okay?" Olivia asked. "Yeah, I just needed to see you." They spent the morning talking between customers. Alexander told her stories of his childhood with his grandfather, of the places they had visited together, of the life lessons he had learned from the old man. "He always said that money can buy comfort, but it can't buy peace," Alexander commented. "I didn't understand what he meant until I grew up. And do you understand now?" "More and more every day." During lunchtime, they walked along the beach. Alexander showed her corners of Miami she didn't know, small hidden coves, urban murals, family-owned craft shops. "How do you know the city so well?" Olivia asked. "I thought you were from money, one of those who live in the residential areas and don't come downtown." Alexander stopped abruptly. "Why do you think I have money?" "Your clothes, your way of speaking, the way you pay for things without asking for prices. Maybe appearances are deceiving, but Olivia knew they weren't. She had grown up seeing the class differences. She knew how to recognize the signs. Alexander was rich, that was indisputable. The question was why he denied it. That afternoon, while preparing an arrangement for a wedding, an elegant woman arrived at the stand. She was wearing a designer dress and jewelry that sparkled in the sun. "Excuse me," the woman said, "have you seen Alexander Vanderbilt around here?" Olivia felt her blood run cold. "Alexander Vanderbilt?" "Yes, he's tall, blue eyes, very handsome. We know he's been frequenting this area." "No, I don't know anyone by that name," Olivia lied. The woman studied her with suspicion. "I'm Victoria Vanderbilt, his stepmother. If you see him, tell him we're looking for him. It's urgent." When the woman left, Olivia was left trembling. Had Alexander lied to her about his last name? What else had he hidden from her? And just when she started to trust, the past came back without warning. Do you think Alexander is lying to Olivia? Comment what you think will happen, like if you want to know the truth about Alexander, and subscribe for the next chapter. Ooh, what is this? It can't be true. The name Victoria Vanderbilt echoed in Olivia's head like a broken bell. She was distracted all afternoon, mixing up orders and spilling water on the flowers. Mr. Joe watched her with concern. "Are you sure you're okay, kid? You look scared." "I'm fine," Olivia lied, but her hands trembled as she arranged a bouquet of daisies. At 5 o'clock, Alexander appeared as usual, but this time Olivia saw him with different eyes. She studied every detail of his appearance: the gold watch on his wrist that was worth more than anything she had ever owned, the Italian leather shoes, the shirt that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Hello, beautiful." Alexander greeted her with that smile that until yesterday melted her. "We need to talk," Olivia said dryly. "Did something happen?" "A woman came looking for you. She said she was Victoria Vanderbilt, your stepmother." The color drained from Alexander's face. For a moment, he looked like a child caught in a lie. "Olivia, Vanderbilt?" she interrupted. "Is that your real last name?" Alexander closed his eyes and sighed deeply. "Yes, what else have you lied to me about?" "I haven't lied to you. I just haven't told you the whole truth. What's the difference?" Alexander looked around the market, clearly uncomfortable having this conversation in public. "Can we go somewhere else?" "No, I want the truth here, now." Mr. Joe approached, sensing the tension in the air. "Is everything okay, Olivia?" "Yes, Mr. Joe. Just a conversation." The old man walked away but continued to watch them from his craft stand. "My last name is Vanderbilt," Alexander began. "My family has money, a lot of money. We own a chain of luxury hotels all along the coast." Olivia felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. "Luxury hotels? Vanderbilt Resort and Spa. Maybe you've heard the name." Of course she had heard the name. Everyone in the country knew the Vanderbilt hotels. They were synonymous with extreme luxury, wealth, a world that people like her could never access. Are you the heir to all that?" "My father wants me to be," Alexander replied bitterly, "but I don't want any of it." "Why did you lie to me?" "Because I knew if I told you the truth you would see me differently, like everyone else does." "And how do you see me?" Olivia asked, her voice beginning to break. "As your charity project, as the poor girl who needs to be rescued." "No!" Alexander exclaimed. "I see you as the most authentic woman I've ever met. I see you as someone who makes me feel human." "Human?" Olivia let out a bitter laugh. "Do you know what makes me feel human? Working 12 hours a day just to eat, counting every single dollar I spend, sleeping in a room that smells like damp because it's the only thing I can afford." Tears started rolling down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of anger. "While I was worrying about where I was going to sleep, you probably have 5 houses." "Olivia, please." "No. Don't say my name with that voice. Don't pretend we're the same, because we're not. We never will be." Alexander tried to get closer, but she backed away. Do you know what hurts the most? That for 3 days, for 3 damn days, I allowed myself to believe that someone saw me, that someone valued me for who I am. But it was all a lie. It wasn't a lie, Alexander said desperately. Every word I said to you was true. Even when you said you knew what it was like to be lost. The man who can have anything he wants knows loss. You don't understand. No, you don't understand, Olivia shouted, drawing the stares of other vendors. You play at being poor, at understanding our problems, but at the end of the day, you can go back to your world of luxury and pretend this never happened. Olivia, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. Olivia wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Go back to your world of money and leave me in mine. I'm not going to leave you. Yes, you are. Because this, she gestured between the two of them, this was a mistake from the beginning. Alexander stood there, with the most hurt expression Olivia had ever seen, but she hardened her heart. She couldn't afford to feel sorry for a millionaire. If you love me even a little, Alexander whispered, let me explain the whole truth. I don't love you, Olivia lied. I can't love someone I don't even know who they really are. Alexander nodded slowly, as if he had received the final blow. All right, he said in a low voice. But before I go forever, I want you to know something. In these 3 days with you, I've been more myself than in my entire life, and that's priceless. He turned and walked towards the market exit. Olivia watched him go, fighting the urge to run after him and apologize, but her wounded pride was stronger than anything else. You did the right thing, kid, Mr. Joe said, approaching. The rich and the poor don't mix. It only brings trouble. But for some reason, the old man's words didn't comfort her. That night, in her small room, Olivia couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Alexander's blue eyes filling with pain when she told him she didn't love him. Had she been too harsh with him? Had she judged without listening? At 2 a.m, she got up and walked to the window. The moon was high, illuminating the empty courtyard. She remembered the first night Alexander had found her in front of the church, when she had nothing and no one. He didn't have to help her. He didn't have to pay for the hotel, or buy her lunch, or just see her. But he had. Maybe there was more to Alexander's story. Maybe she had reacted with a wounded heart instead of a clear mind. But it was too late now. He was gone forever. The next day she arrived at the market with dark circles under her eyes and a heavy heart. Mr. Joe greeted her with a worried expression. Are you sure you're okay, kid? Yes, I just didn't sleep much. During the morning she attended to customers mechanically, an elderly couple buying flowers for their anniversary, a single mother wanting to brighten her home with sunflowers, a man looking for roses to apologize to his wife. Every love story hurt her a little more. At noon, Victoria Vanderbilt appeared again. This time she was accompanied by a burly man in a black suit. Did you see Alexander yesterday? She asked directly. Olivia hesitated for a moment. Yes. What did he say? Nothing important. Victoria studied her with calculating eyes. Listen to me carefully, miss. Alexander is going through a difficult time. His father died a month ago in a car accident. Olivia's world stopped. What? Alexander is now the sole heir to a fortune worth hundreds of millions of dollars. There are many people who would want to take advantage of his grief and vulnerability. I'm sure you're a good person, Victoria interrupted, but Alexander needs to be with his family right now. He needs to accept his responsibilities. Where is he now? In Santa Monica, at the main hotel. He's drinking too much, locked in his room, refusing to talk to anyone since he came back from Miami yesterday. Olivia felt her stomach clench. Alexander had lost his father, and she had rejected him in his moment of greatest vulnerability. What do you want from me? That if he comes looking for you again, you convince him to come back to us, to forget these fantasies of a different life. Victoria left a business card on the counter. If you cooperate. There will be a generous financial compensation. When the woman left, Olivia stared at the card. The hotel's address was printed in gold letters, Vanderbilt Resort and Spa, Santa Monica. What did that woman want? Mr. Joe asked. Trouble, Olivia murmured. The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind. Olivia couldn't concentrate on anything. The image of Alexander drinking alone in a hotel room, mourning his father's death, haunted her constantly. She had been a cruel idiot. He had lost the only father he had left, and instead of comforting him, she had rejected and humiliated him. That afternoon, after work, she walked to the church. She sat on the same steps where Alexander had found her 4 days ago. My God, she thought, how could I have been so blind? Suddenly, a familiar voice startled her. Olivia! She turned and saw a young man her age, with brown hair and green eyes. It took her a moment to recognize him. Matt? It was Matt Thompson, her ex-boyfriend, the one who had left her for someone with more financial stability. What are you doing? Here? He asked, sitting next to her uninvited. Nothing important. I've been looking for you. I went to your apartment and they told me you had moved. Why were you looking for me? Matt looked uncomfortable, nervous. To apologize and to ask you to come back. Olivia looked at him in disbelief. Apologize. I know I was a coward when I left you, but things have changed. Oh, really? Your financial situation improved and now you can be with a poor girl. It's not that. Matt moved closer. It's that I realized I love you. A week ago, those words would have meant everything to Olivia. Now, after meeting Alexander, they sounded empty and false. You know what, Matt? You're right. Things have changed. I have changed. Is there someone else? Olivia thought of Alexander, of his blue eyes full of pain, of the way he had looked at her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. Yes, she said in a low voice. There is someone else. Who is he? Do I know him? You don't know him, and you probably never will. Matt stood up, clearly annoyed. Is that why you don't want to get back with me? Because of some guy you met at the market? It's for many reasons, but mainly because I now know the difference between someone who wants me when it's convenient and someone who truly sees me. That guy is going to hurt you, Olivia. Men like us, from our class, are the ones who are really good for you. Men like us? Olivia laughed. You left me when I needed you most. Is that your definition of convenience? Matt left without another word, and Olivia was left alone with her thoughts. She had to find Alexander. She had to apologize and explain that she had reacted out of fear, out of wounded pride, out of all the insecurities she had been carrying her whole life. But how was she going to get to Santa Monica? She didn't even have money for the bus. Suddenly, she remembered the card Victoria had left. She took it out of her pocket and studied it. It was a dangerous decision, but for the first time in her life, she was going to fight for something she really wanted. What he said before he left will change the course of the whole story. Do you think Olivia should go look for Alexander? Comment what you would do in her place, like if you want to see the reunion, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. That's enough. I'm not going to say it again. The bus to Santa Monica left at 6 in the morning. Olivia had worked all night making extra flower arrangements to gather the money for the ticket. Her fingers were cut by thorns and her back ached, but she didn't care. Mr. Joe had tried to dissuade her. It's crazy, kid. That boy's from another world. You're only going to get hurt. I'm already hurt, Mr. Joe, but this time I want to be hurt for trying something, not for sitting back and doing nothing. The journey took almost a full day. Olivia travelled in the cheapest seat, squeezed between a woman with 3 children and a man who smelled of alcohol. But she didn't mind the discomfort. Her mind was completely focused on what she was going to say to Alexander when she saw him. Santa Monica greeted her with intense heat and the salty scent of the ocean. The bay was breathtaking, and for a few moments she felt overwhelmed by the beauty of the place. The Vanderbilt Resort and Spa was exactly what she had imagined. A white marble palace facing the sea, with perfectly manicured gardens and employees dressed in white attending to clearly wealthy guests. Olivia felt terribly out of place in her simple dress and worn-out shoes, but she took a deep breath and headed to the reception. "Excuse me," she said to the receptionist, a young woman with a perfect smile. "I'm looking for Alexander Vanderbilt." The woman's smile faded slightly. "Are you a relative of Mr. Vanderbilt?" "I'm a friend. I'm afraid Mr. Vanderbilt is not receiving visitors. It's important, very important." The receptionist studied her from head to toe, clearly assessing whether she was a threat or just another one of the women who occasionally showed up looking for Alexander. "I'll call Mrs. Victoria." 5 minutes later, Victoria Vanderbilt appeared in the lobby. Her expression changed from surprise to annoyance when she saw Olivia. "What are you doing here? I came to see Alexander. I told you to leave him alone. And I'm telling you that I need to talk to him." Victoria came closer, lowering her voice. "Listen to me carefully. Alexander has been drinking for 3 days straight. He hasn't left his room. He hasn't eaten. He hasn't spoken to anyone. His emotional state is very fragile. Then he needs someone who understands him." "And you think you understand him?" Victoria let out a bitter laugh. "You have no idea of the pressure he's under. Thousands of jobs depend on the decisions he makes in the coming weeks. There are million-dollar contracts waiting for his signature. I didn't come here to talk about business." "Then what did you come for?" "To apologize." Victoria watched her in silence for a few moments. "You know what? Fine. Go see him. Maybe when you realize what it really means to be with him, you'll understand why it's better for you to stay away." Alexander's suite was on the top floor, with a panoramic view of the bay. Victoria knocked on the door. "Alexander, there's someone here who wants to see you." "I don't want to see anyone," a hoarse voice replied from inside. "It's Olivia." The silence was absolute for several seconds. Finally, the sound of footsteps approached, and the door opened. Alexander was unrecognizable. His hair was disheveled. He had a beard of several days. His eyes were red and swollen. He was wearing only a pair of jeans and a wrinkled T-shirt. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice rough. "I came to talk to you." Alexander looked at Victoria, who was still standing behind Olivia. "Leave us alone." "Alexander, I don't think that's a good idea." "Leave us alone," he repeated, with a firmness that allowed no argument. Victoria left reluctantly, and Alexander allowed Olivia to enter the room. The suite was huge, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the sea. But it was a mess. Empty whiskey bottles on the tables, clothes thrown on the floor, the curtains drawn despite the beautiful view. "Victoria told me about your dad," Olivia said in a low voice. "I'm so sorry." Alexander slumped into an armchair, avoiding her gaze. "Did you come all this way to give me your condolences?" "I came because I was an idiot, because I reacted like a hurt child instead of listening to you." "You were right about everything you said." Alexander picked up a half-empty bottle from the table. "We're from different worlds. It's never going to work." "Is that what you really believe?" Alexander finally looked at her, and Olivia could see all the pain he had been carrying. "My father died in a car accident a month ago. But you know what's the saddest part? The last conversation we had was a fight." "Why did you fight?" "Because I told him I didn't want to take over the hotels, that I wanted to do something different with my life, that I didn't want to be a prisoner of all this money." Alexander got up and walked to the window. "He told me I was ungrateful, that I didn't value everything he had built for me, that I was an irresponsible dreamer." "And what did you say to him?" "I told him I'd rather be poor and free than rich and miserable like him." Alexander's voice broke. "Slightly. Those were the last words I said to my father, rich and miserable." Olivia approached slowly. "You were hurt. People say cruel things when they're hurt. Do you know why I was in Miami when I met you?" Alexander continued. I had run away. After the funeral, everyone expected me to take control immediately, but I couldn't. I couldn't be in these hotels, surrounded by everything that reminded me of the fight we had. And what were you going to do? I didn't know. I just knew I needed to find something real, something that would make me feel like my life had a purpose beyond money. Alexander turned to her. And then I saw you, working with those flowers, putting all your heart into something so simple yet so beautiful. And for the first time in months, I felt hope. Olivia felt tears welling up in her eyes. Alexander. But you were right, he interrupted her. It was selfish of me to involve you in my existential crisis. You have real problems, real needs. You don't need to deal with the dramas of a rich kid. Can you love someone who broke your soul? Olivia murmured, remembering words she had once heard. What? It's something I read once. Can you love someone who broke your soul? And what's the answer? Olivia moved closer until she was just inches from him. I think the answer is that sometimes love means allowing someone to break down our defenses. It means being vulnerable. I didn't break your soul, Olivia. Your soul was already broken when I met you. And so was yours. They looked at each other in silence, recognizing in the other the same pain, the same loneliness, the same desperate need to be understood. What are you going to do with all this? Olivia asked, gesturing around. I don't know. Victoria says that if I don't take control soon, the company could collapse, that there are many families who depend on these jobs. And what do you want? I want none of this to matter, Alexander said with desperation. I want us to be able to be together without all these complications. But can't we? Alexander took her by the shoulders. Olivia, if we were together, your life would change completely. You would live under constant scrutiny. There would be people who would say you're only with me for the money. You'd have to attend social events where you wouldn't feel comfortable. I'd have to what? She interrupted. I'd have to be with someone who really loves you instead of someone who loves your money. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Olivia took his face in her hands. It's as simple as deciding what's more important. What others think, or what we feel. Alexander closed his eyes and leaned into her touch. I love you, he whispered. I love you, and that terrifies me. It terrifies me too, Olivia confessed. But I'm tired of living in fear. They kissed then, with all the desperation and passion they had been holding back. It was a kiss that tasted of salty tears and second chances. When they separated, Alexander hugged her tightly. If we do this, he said against her hair, it's not going to be easy. Things that are worthwhile are never easy. They're going to try to separate us. Then we'll have to be stronger than them. Alexander pulled back to look her in the eyes. Are you sure? Are you really willing to face everything that comes with being with me? The question is, are you willing to face what comes with loving me for real? Because I'm not going to change who I am to fit into your world. I don't want you to change. You're perfect just the way you are. At that moment, the door opened abruptly. Victoria entered, followed by an older man in an impeccable suit. Alexander, we need to talk, the man said. There's a crisis with the Japanese investors and... He stopped when he saw Olivia in Alexander's arms. Who is this woman? Olivia, this is Richard Vanderbilt, my uncle and the company's vice president, Alexander said without letting her go. Richard, this is Olivia Smith, the woman I'm going to marry. The silence in the room was absolute. Olivia looked at him with wide eyes, surprised by his declaration. What are you talking about? Richard muttered. You can't just marry anyone. There are protocols, prenuptial agreements, background checks. I'm not marrying just anyone, Alexander said firmly. I'm marrying the woman I love. Alexander, Victoria intervened, you're being emotional. You just lost your father. You're not thinking clearly. I've never thought more clearly in my life. Richard approached, clearly annoyed. Do you have any idea what's at stake here? The responsibilities you have? Yes, I have them very clear, and I'm going to fulfill all of them. But I'm going to do it with Olivia by my side. That's ridiculous, Victoria addressed Olivia directly. Do you have any idea what you're getting into? Are you prepared to live in the spotlight? For every aspect of your past life to be investigated? Olivia stood tall, finding a strength she didn't know she had. I am prepared to love Alexander unconditionally. If that includes all those things, I will face them. And are you prepared to give up your old life? Your job? Your friends? Everything you know? I'm not going to give up anything, Olivia replied. I'm going to add new things to my life, but I'm not going to stop being who I am. Richard let out a contemptuous laugh. This conversation is absurd. Alexander, you have a responsibility to the company, to our employees, to our family. You can't throw it all away for a romantic whim. It's not a whim, Alexander's voice hardened. And I'm not throwing anything away. I'm going to take control of the company, but I'm going to do it my way. Your way? Yes, a way that includes real social responsibility, fair wages, programs for low-income employees. A way that honors my father's memory by building something better than what he left. Richard and Victoria exchanged worried glances. You need time to think about it, Victoria said. Miss Smith, maybe it would be better if you returned to Miami while Alexander... No, Alexander interrupted. Olivia stays. If you're going to be a part of my life, you're going to have to get used to her being here. Richard sighed deeply. All right, but I want you to know that this isn't over. There's too much at stake to let it go. When they left, Alexander and Olivia were alone again. Did you really say you were going to marry me? Olivia asked with a trembling smile. Does it bother you? It terrifies and excites me at the same time. Is that a yes? Olivia looked into those blue eyes she already knew better than her own. It's a let's find out together. The answer is just a step away. No way. Did Alexander propose? Comment if you think they'll manage to be together, like if you want to see what happens in the next chapter, and subscribe so you don't miss a single detail. Stay still. Don't move. What I'm about to tell you could change everything. Olivia woke up in a bed that was bigger than her entire room at Mrs. Gable's. The sun's rays filtered through silk curtains, creating golden patterns on the white sheets. For a moment, she felt as if she were in a dream. Alexander was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, looking at the ocean through the large window. What are you thinking about? Olivia asked, getting closer to him. About everything that has to happen before this, he gestured between them, can be real. It's already real. I mean, for it to be official, accepted. Olivia sat down next to him. Is that so important to you? Not for me, but it is to be able to protect you. Protect me from what? Alexander looked at her with a grim expression. My family has many enemies, Olivia. Business competitors, resentful partners, people who would want to hurt the Vanderbilts by hurting you. Are you trying to scare me? I'm trying to prepare you. A knock on the door interrupted the conversation. Victoria entered without waiting for an answer, followed by an elegant woman Olivia didn't know. Alexander, this is Isabella Camacho, our private investigator, Victoria announced. She needs to ask Miss Smith a few questions. Private investigator? Olivia asked, alarmed. It's standard protocol, Isabella explained with a cold smile. We need to verify some background information before she can have full access to the Vanderbilt family. Alexander stood up. You're not going to investigate her as if she were a criminal. It's for her own protection, Victoria insisted, and for the protection of the company. What kind of questions? Olivia asked. Isabella took out a tablet and began to read. Basic information. Place of birth, educational history, previous jobs, past relationships. Alexander already knows all of that. We need official verification. Isabella continued reading. We also need information about her parents, grandparents, any criminal record in the family. My dad left us when I was 12, Olivia dryly said. My mom died of cancer. My grandparents died when I was little. Is that enough verification? Full name of your father? Javier Smith, Isabella typed on her tablet. Place of birth? Miami. Last known job? Olivia frowned. It was a strange question. He was an accountant. He worked for several companies before he left. Can you specify which companies? Why is that important? Isabella and Victoria exchanged a look that made Olivia's skin crawl. It's routine information, Victoria said. We just need to complete the file. Olivia felt that something was wrong, but she didn't know what. He worked for a construction company, for a textile factory. I don't remember all the names. I was very young when he left. Would you remember the name Vanderbilt Real Estate Development? The silence in the room became deafening. Olivia felt the blood freeze in her veins. What did you say? Vanderbilt Real Estate Development, Isabella repeated. A subsidiary of the family company. Your father worked there for 3 years. Olivia looked at Alexander, whose face had turned pale. Your family has a real estate company? Olivia, Alexander began. Does your family have a real estate company? Olivia shouted. Victoria approached. Miss Smith, I think there's something you need to know. No! Olivia stood up, trembling. It can't be true. What's happening? Alexander asked, confused. Isabella consulted her tablet again. Javier Smith was fired from Vanderbilt Real Estate Development in January of 2006 for embezzlement. That's a lie, Olivia screamed. My dad never stole anything. According to our files. Your files are wrong. Alexander approached her. Olivia, calm down. We'll figure this out. Figure out what? Olivia looked at him with eyes full of tears and fury. Figure out that your family destroyed mine? What are you talking about? My dad didn't leave because he wanted to, Alexander. He left because he was accused of stealing money he never touched, because his boss threatened to put him in jail if he didn't disappear. Victoria and Isabella continued to review the documents. It says here that irregularities were found in the accounts managed by Mr. Smith, Isabella read. There was $11,000 missing. My dad was innocent. Olivia turned to Victoria. Who was my dad's boss? Who accused him? Victoria hesitated before answering. Fernando Vanderbilt, Alexander's father. Olivia's world stopped. Everything started to make sense. Why her? Father had come home that day pale and trembling. Why he had packed his things that same night. Why he had disappeared without explanation. Your dad, she whispered, looking at Alexander. Your dad destroyed my family. Alexander looked as if he had been physically struck. Olivia, I didn't know. Of course you didn't know, she yelled. Why would you know? Why would a rich kid care what happened to an employee's family? That's not fair. Not fair? Olivia let out a hysterical laugh. Do you know what's not fair? That my mom got sick with depression after my dad left. That we had to move to a horrible apartment because we couldn't afford the rent. That I had to work since I was 14 to help with the expenses. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice grew stronger with each word. Do you know what's not fair? That my mom died believing her husband was a thief. That I grew up with that shame, with that stigma. Alexander tried to approach, but she backed away. Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me. Olivia, please, we can investigate what really happened. Investigate? Olivia turned to Isabella. Do you have my dad's complete file? Isabella nodded, clearly uncomfortable. I want to see it. All of it. I don't think that's a good idea, Victoria intervened. I don't care what you think. I want to see that damn file now. Isabella looked at Alexander, who nodded slowly. Bring it, he ordered. 20 minutes later, Isabella returned with a thick folder. She placed it on the table, and Olivia pounced on it. The pages were filled with numbers, reports, correspondence. Olivia read everything avidly, although most of the accounting language confused her. But one letter caught her attention. It was handwritten, in her father's handwriting. "Mr. Vanderbilt," she read aloud, "I swear on the lives of my wife and daughter that I did not take that money. Someone else had access to those accounts. Please, allow me to prove it. My family depends on this job." Olivia continued reading, her voice breaking more and more. "I understand you can't risk keeping me in the company while it's being investigated, but I beg you not to press charges until the truth is clarified. I have a young daughter. I can't go to jail for something I didn't do." At the end of the letter, there was a reply written in blue ink, in a different handwriting. "Mr. Smith, the evidence is clear. If you do not disappear within 24 hours, I will proceed legally. Do not contact me again. Fernando Vanderbilt." Olivia dropped the letter as if it were on fire. "Your dad didn't even give him a chance," she murmured. "Not a single chance to defend himself." Alexander took the letter and read it. His face grew paler with each line. "This can't be true." "Why? Because your dad was a saint." "Because my dad wasn't like that. He was fair, honorable." "Your dad was a coward," Olivia said coldly. "He preferred to ruin an innocent man's life rather than admit his security system had flaws." Victoria approached the table. "Maybe we should review all the information before jumping to conclusions." "All the information?" Olivia continued to leaf through the file. "Like this." She pulled out another document, an audit report dated 6 months after her father was fired. "Additional irregularities were discovered in the accounting system," she read. "The theft appears to have been perpetrated by multiple individuals over an extended period." She looked at Alexander with eyes full of pain and fury. 6 months later, they found out that more people were involved, that the problem was bigger. But by then, my dad had already disappeared, and my family was already destroyed. "Olivia, do you know what's the most painful part of all this?" she continued. "That for all these years, I've felt less than others. I've believed I come from a family of thieves. I've carried that shame every day of my life." She stood up, trembling with rage. "And it turns out it was all a lie, that my dad was innocent, and that your family knew it." "My family didn't know," Alexander said desperately. "This report, I had never seen this report." "Oh, really?" Olivia took the document. "Look at the signature at the bottom." Alexander read it and was speechless. The signature said, "Reviewed and filed by order of Fernando Vanderbilt." "Your dad did know," Olivia whispered. "He knew 6 months later and never did anything to fix it." The silence in the room was absolute. Victoria and Isabella seemed like statues, not knowing what to say or do. "Olivia," Alexander said in a broken voice, "I didn't know any of this. I swear I didn't know anything. But your family knew. The family you are now the heir of. The company you now have to run. We can fix this. We can find your dad, clear his name." "Fix this?" Olivia let out a bitter laugh. "How are you going to fix my mom dying believing her husband was a criminal? How are you going to fix me living for 20 years feeling less than others?" "I don't know how, but we'll find a way." "No," Olivia said with a calmness that contrasted with her previous state. "We're not going to do anything, because this is over." "What?" "This. Us. It's over." Alexander approached her. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious in my life." Olivia looked him directly in the eyes. "I can't be with the son of the man who destroyed my family. But I'm not my father. It doesn't matter. Every time I look at you, I'm going to remember what he did to us. Every time I have your last name, I'm going to remember that the same name was used to humiliate mine." "Olivia, please." "And what's worse," she continued, "every dollar you earn from this company will be stained with the injustice done to my dad." Alexander tried to take her hands, but she pulled away. "We can change the company. We can make it different." "With what money?" "With the money they built by ruining lives like my family's." "So what do you want me to do?" Renounce everything. Let the company collapse. I want you to do what you have to do, Olivia said, walking towards the door. But without me. If you leave now, it's forever, Alexander shouted. I'm not coming to look for you again. Olivia stopped at the threshold without turning around. I know. Is that what you want? To throw away everything we have for something that happened years ago? Olivia finally turned. Tears were streaming down her face, but her voice was firm. What we have was built on a lie, Alexander. From the very first day, you came to me as someone who understood pain, but it turns out your family was the cause of mine. I love you, and I love you too, Olivia confessed. And that's exactly why this hurts so much. If you love me, stay. Let's fight together. If you love me, let me go. Alexander stood in the center of the room, watching the woman he loved walk away forever. Olivia, he called out one last time. She stopped, but didn't turn around. One day, you'll realize that love is stronger than the past. And one day, Olivia replied without turning, you'll realize that some wounds are too deep to heal. The door closed with a definitive sound, and Alexander collapsed into the armchair. Victoria approached cautiously. Alexander, maybe it's for the best. Get out of here, he yelled. Everybody get out. When he was alone, Alexander went to the window and watched as Olivia got into a taxi at the hotel entrance. The vehicle drove away along the coastal highway until it disappeared. Among the palm trees, it was official. He had lost the only woman he had ever truly loved. The secret will finally be revealed, and nothing will ever be the same. No way. Is this the end for Alexander and Olivia? Comment if you think love can overcome the past. Like if you want to know if there will be a happy ending, and subscribe for the final chapter. It's all over. There's nothing left to do. 3 months had passed since Olivia returned to Miami. 3 months in which she had tried to rebuild her life piece by piece. Mr. Joe had welcomed her back to the flower stand without asking any questions. He had just hugged her when he saw her arrive, with eyes swollen from crying, and had told her, "Broken hearts can also bloom, kid." But blooming seemed impossible. Every morning she woke up with a weight on her chest that wouldn't let her breathe properly. Every rose she arranged reminded her of the first time Alexander had watched her work. Every sunset she found herself looking out at the sea, hoping to see those blue eyes that never returned. "You're so thin," Mrs. Gable commented one afternoon. "You're not eating well." "I don't have much of an appetite," Olivia replied as she organized her few belongings. She had moved again, this time to an even smaller room, but one she could afford on her own without anyone's help. Independence came at a high price, but it was better than charity. "Are you still thinking about him?" the older woman asked. Olivia didn't answer. How could she explain that Alexander was in every thought, in every dream, in every awakening? How could she explain that she missed him so much that sometimes she couldn't breathe? That night, as she walked through downtown after work, she stopped in front of the church. It was the place where it all had begun, where Alexander had found her at her most vulnerable. "Why did it have to be so complicated?" she murmured to the palm trees swaying against the starry sky. "Because the things that are worthwhile are always complicated." Olivia turned sharply. It was a familiar voice, but not the one she expected to hear. An older man in his 60s was approaching slowly. His hair was completely white, and he wore simple but clean clothes. There was something familiar in his honey-colored eyes, something that made her tremble. "Dad?" she whispered, unable to believe it. Javier Smith stopped a few feet from her with tears running down his cheeks. "Hello, my girl." Olivia was paralyzed. For 14 years, she had imagined this moment. She had rehearsed in her mind what she would say, the reproaches, the questions, the anger. But now that he was in front of her, she could only run into his arms. "Dad! Dad!" she sobbed against his chest. "Where were you? Why did you leave?" Because I was a coward, he replied, hugging her tightly. Because I thought it was better for you to hate me for abandoning you than for being a thief. But you weren't a thief. Javier pulled back to, "Look at her. How do you know that?" "Because I saw the file. I saw the letter you wrote. I saw how they threatened you. I saw how they discovered the truth after it was too late." Her father's face fell. "You saw all that?" "Yes. And I also know why you're here now." "You do?" Olivia nodded. "Alexander found you, right?" Javier was silent for a moment. "He found me a month ago. He had been looking for me since you left Santa Monica. He hired private investigators, detectives, spent a fortune until he found me in Michigan." "What did he tell you?" "Many things, but mainly he apologized for what his father had done. And he told me that he loved you so much that he was willing to lose everything for you to be happy." Olivia felt her legs give way. "What do you mean, lose everything?" "He gave up the company, Olivia. He left everything to his Uncle Richard and left." "What?" "When he found me, he was no longer the heir to anything. He had sold his shares, liquidated his properties. He told me he couldn't live with the money that had caused so much pain." Olivia sank onto the church steps. "Where is he now?" "I don't know. He gave me the money for the trip back and left. He just asked me to tell you that he had never known true love until he met you." "He gave you money?" "Enough to clear my name, to hire a lawyer and officially prove my innocence, but also for something else." Javier sat down next to her. "For what else?" "To compensate for all the damage his family caused us. He was very generous, Olivia, more than we deserved. It wasn't his fault, but he took responsibility anyway. That boy really loves you." Olivia was silent, processing all the information. "And Mom, does she know you're innocent?" Javier's eyes filled with tears. "Your mother died believing I was a thief. That's a guilt I'll carry for the rest of my life." "No, Dad. Mom died knowing you were a good man. In her heart, she always knew." They hugged again, crying for all the lost years, for all the wounds that could finally begin to heal. "Where have you been all this time?" Olivia asked. "On a farm in Michigan, working the land, trying to forget the past. But I could never forget you two." "Why didn't you come back sooner?" "Because I was scared. Scared you would reject me, that you would hate me. I thought it was better for you to remember me as the dad who loved you than as the man who had abandoned you. I forgive you, Dad. I forgive you for everything." Javier hugged her tighter. "And now you have to forgive yourself, my girl. You have to go find that boy and fight for your happiness. I don't know where he is." "Well, we'll look for him. The U.S. isn't as big as it seems." Olivia smiled for the first time in months. "Will you help me?" "It's the least I can do after 14 years of absence." They spent the next 2 weeks looking for any trace of Alexander. Javier used his contacts in Michigan. Olivia asked at all the Vanderbilt chain hotels, but no one knew where he was. Finally, Mr. Joe gave them a clue. "There's a young man who comes to the market every day," he said. "He buys flowers but never talks to anyone. Someone told me he lives in a small apartment near the university." "What does he look like?" Olivia asked, her heart racing. "Tall blue eyes, very thin. He looked sad. It was him. It had to be him." The address Mr. Joe gave them led to a modest 3-story building in Miami. Olivia went up the stairs with trembling legs. Her father had stayed downstairs, giving her privacy for the reunion. She knocked on the door of apartment 2B. "Who is it?" a familiar voice asked from inside. "It's me," Olivia replied simply. The silence stretched for several seconds. Finally, the door opened. Alexander was unrecognizable. He had lost weight, had a scruffy beard and deep, dark circles. He was wearing an old t-shirt and worn-out pants, but his eyes were still the same, blue as the Caribbean Sea. "Olivia?" he murmured, as if he couldn't believe it was real. "You found my dad?" "Yes." "You gave up everything?" "Yes." "Why?" Alexander invited her in. The apartment was small but clean. It only had the essentials: a bed, a table, 2 chairs, a small stove. "Because I realized you were right," he said. "I couldn't keep the money that had caused so much pain. I couldn't be happy knowing my happiness was built on injustice." "And what are you doing now?" "I work at a school teaching business classes. I don't earn much, but it's enough to live on." Olivia looked around the humble apartment. "Don't you miss your old life?" "Every day, but missing you was worse." They stood in silence, studying each other. The months of separation had changed them both, but the love was still there, intact. "Why did you look for my dad?" Olivia asked. "Because I needed to do the right thing, and because I knew that as long as that injustice remained unresolved, you could never be completely happy. And you thought that if you solved it, I would come back to you?" Alexander shook his head. "No, I did it because it was the right thing to do, whether you came back or not, but I hoped that maybe one day you could forgive me." "I have nothing to forgive you for. You didn't do anything wrong." "But my last name did. My family did." Olivia approached him. "You are not your family, Alexander. You are you. And the man you are is someone who was able to give up everything to do justice." "Is that enough?" "It's more than enough." Alexander took her hands. "Does that mean—" "It means—" "Yes, I want to marry you," Olivia said with a smile. "But this Alexander, the Alexander who lives in a small apartment and teaches at a school, the Alexander who loves me for who I am, not for what I can give him." "Are you sure?" "Because this life is very different from the one I could have offered you before. This life is real, and I'd rather have a real life with you than a life of luxury without you." They kissed then, with all the passion and pain of the months of separation. It was a kiss that tasted of second chances and true love. "I love you, Olivia Smith," Alexander murmured against her lips. "And I love you, Alexander Vanderbilt. But we're going to have to find a bigger apartment." "Why?" "Because my dad is staying with us for a while. We have 14 years to catch up on." Alexander smiled, and that smile lit up his whole face. "That sounds perfect." 6 months later, Olivia and Alexander were married in a small ceremony at St. John's Church. Javier walked her down the aisle. Mr. Joe was the best man, and Mrs. Gable cried throughout the ceremony. There was no luxurious hall or designer dress. Olivia wore a simple white dress she had bought at the market, and Alexander wore the only suit he owned. But when they looked into each other's eyes as they exchanged vows, they knew they had something money couldn't buy: true love. "Do you ever regret it?" Olivia asked Alexander one night, as they had dinner in their small 2-bedroom apartment. "Regret what?" "Giving up everything, living like this." Alexander looked around their modest home, the walls he had painted himself, the second-hand furniture they had bought, the flowers Olivia always had on the table. "Never," he replied. "This is the richest life I've ever lived, even though we sometimes eat beans and rice 3 days in a row, especially when we eat beans and rice 3 days in a row." Olivia laughed and leaned in to kiss him. "You know what I've discovered?" she said. "What?" "That every story is about a woman who believes she doesn't deserve to be seen until someone truly sees her. And every story is about a man who believes money can buy happiness until he discovers that true love is priceless." They hugged in the kitchen of their small apartment, while outside the sea breeze whispered through the palm trees, blessing their love that had been born from pain and had blossomed in truth. Javier, who was watching them from the living room, smiled. His daughter had found what he and his wife had had, a love that could overcome any obstacle. And somewhere in Santa Monica, Victoria Vanderbilt read in the newspaper the news of her nephew's marriage to the accountant's daughter. At first, she felt anger, but then, seeing the photograph of the couple smiling in front of the church, she had to admit that she had never seen Alexander so happy. Maybe, she thought, the boy knew what he was doing after all. This story is not just about them. It could also be about you. And did you like how Olivia and Alexander's story ended? Leave us your comments on what you thought. Subscribe to the channel, share which city you're reading from, and suggest new ideas for future stories. Have you ever felt like no one saw you until someone did? This story reminds us that true love is priceless, and that sometimes losing everything is the only way to gain what really matters.